permanent life insurance, whole life insurance, is the only insurance that exists that's guaranteed to pay out.
Mhm.
The only insurance that exists that's guaranteed to pay out. If you're talking term and life term, 99% of term policies never pay.
We are afraid to put our money in the bank because they're always talking about a crash, economical crash. So the thing that comes to my brain is that I really like is that you could take money out and your interest rate still grow. That's phenomenal.
I have the pleasure of not only it was my island brother, but now he's actually back on the island of USA. But my brother on the island was Mr. Ben Berry is my guest tonight. And what we do every Monday night, we do a real talk episode where we introduce people to some alternative ways of healing. And yes, finances are on my 7 dimensions wheel. For those who don't know about the 7 dimensions of healing, you need to reach out to Ellen Boyer. She wrote a book about it. So, you got to talk to her. But we have to have that bucket, that one part of that wheel has to be healed, or else we're not going to be completed. So, and what better way to heal yourself than being able to pay yourself, which is a huge, quite a different way of earning. And Ben introduced me to this a couple of weeks ago, and I'm like, wow. Now, my husband was all over this too, so I can't wait for you guys to hear his presentation tonight. For those out there, please like and share this post of this. If you see it live, please share it, because I'll tell you right now, what Ben is going to share to you is completely different than what you normally see when it comes to banking. It's revolutionary. You will not want to see this.
I do have a decent amount of content. So what I want you guys to stay involved. I want you to put your thinking caps on. I want you to be asking questions because this is a different approach. This is some different information than you've probably heard of. I mean, to be completely honest, most financial advisors, they don't know about what I'm going to share with you tonight. Okay. So what I would love for you to do to be involved, to keep your mind engaged, is to write down five things, 5 aha moments, 5 questions, just at least 5 things. And I want you to write those down. And then after this presentation, sometime tonight or tomorrow, I want you to email me. So it's my little thing where I want you guys to be engaged, be thinking, and be asking questions. Okay. So how would it feel, you guys? How would it feel to achieve financial certainty, to enhance your money-making focus, and to take the first steps toward a very resilient, long-term financial foundation, right? One word for me appears in my mind, and that is serenity. But if we're being honest, many of us, we just have a number of these financial challenges as either individuals or business owners. And those include, there's so many, right? There's a lot that assail us, but there's things like rising debt and market risk. So what we're going to do tonight is we're going to explore some strategies to turn what I call business headwinds into tailwinds for our personal and generational profits. Don't just think personal, right? Like right now, but think generationally, okay? And we're going to learn the key to success by aligning goals and priorities. So then we're going to dive into the bank on yourself strategy, and that empowers people in maintaining funds, planning purchases, gaining financial control, taking the banking function and bringing it back in-house, okay? So these are some of the first steps to experience serenity in your financial path. And I want you to know too, if you're in Canada, I've got some help for you as well. If you're in Canada and you want to get connected to this strategy and this information, so head to the link here. I've got a QR code so you can scan that. or you can go to bit.ly/BB Financial Services. Okay, there's no .com at the end, and just click on that free phone introduction, and then you can get right on, excuse me, you can get right on my calendar. So happy to speak with you briefly for 15 minutes over Zoom, phone, whatever you might like. Okay. All right, friends, let's begin with what I like to call, this is the focusing question. Okay. And here it is. What is the one thing I can do with my money such that by doing it, everything else will become easier or unnecessary? But in order to answer that question, first we need to take a look at the key problem standing in our way. But I want you to hold on to that question, okay? Hold on to that question. So first we need to look at this problem. And the first question, the first problem we need to look at is this. Are we a nation of savers? Let's take a serious look at these numbers. 47% of American households say they could not cover an emergency expense of $400. And 31%, or nearly 1/3 of those not yet retired, report no retirement savings or pension at all, including 27% of those age 60 or older. To me, those are mind-boggling numbers. So, y'all, are we a nation of debtors? Well, we spend more time planning our vacations than planning our retirement. It's insane to me. 28% of Americans have more credit card debt than they have in savings. Now, Americans now have more debt than they did at the height of the last recession. And 35.9% of the average income goes toward debt and debt financing. Guys, if time is money, that's 1/3 of your day. The ultimate problem, I believe, is that we're not thinking long range. So what I want to do now is I want to take airplanes as a metaphor, okay? So airplanes don't fly in a vacuum, right? So as an airplane lifts off, it of course must fly through an environment. So imagine you're piloting an airplane that can fly 100 miles an hour, and you want to fly from New York to Chicago. The only problem is you've got a headwind of 345 miles per hour. The environment is pushing you, no matter how hard you might try, out into the Atlantic Ocean and not towards Chicago at 245 miles per hour. So if you want to get to Chicago from New York, you got to get your plane on the ground, right? And wait for the wind to change. So now, once the wind does die down and there's no headwind, now you can fly your plane from New York to Chicago as fast as your plane can fly at ground speed of 100 miles per hour. You'll be eating deep dish pizza by dinner time, unless, you're with Dr. Roni. She will not let you eat deep dish pizza, right? But now we're going at 100 miles an hour. So for many people, this is what is called the arrival syndrome, where their mind says, we can't do anything better than this. This is the best situation. Our mutual funds are doing 18% a year. We have all our debts paid off, and we pay cash for everything, right? I meet people like this all the time, but is this really the best that you can do with your money? Of course not. If you keep that plane on the ground in New York just a bit longer and let the winds get behind you, you could have a tailwind of 345 miles per hour, plus your airplane's engine allows you to push another 100 miles per hour. So now your ground speed is 445 miles per hour. Now that's pretty impressive. Most people think that everything you do in the financial world is compared to what everyone else is doing. 95% of America is flying their airplane into a headwind of 345 miles per hour. They have debt up to their waistline or up to their eyeballs, and they're just slaves to a bank. So what little they can save, it goes to their 401k or their home, and they're flying their plane unknowingly out into the ocean with no way out. Now, a small portion of Americans pays cash for everything. They have their airplane moving along at 100 miles per hour, but they're stuck with the arrival syndrome, right? They're missing out on the real power of having their financial environment work in their favor. So what I say to you, what I want to share with you is the true financial revolutionaries. And I feel like this is a group of revolutionaries. When I look at all the people on this call, the true financial revolutionaries, they are the ones that have become the banker, and now they have a tailwind. So if the tailwind is 345, the difference from headwind to tailwind can be a total of 690 miles per hour. Now, you guys, this is not your average financial thinking, right? This is what we mean when we say bank on yourself, and we're going to get into it, but this takes long range thinking. So what do? You fill up your gas tank, right? You wait, you save, and you get ready. Now, there's this great quote that Gloria Steinem says, rich people plan for 3 generations and poor people plan for Saturday night. You know, that long range thinking. So now if time is money, and we can't really get over that fact that time is money. So my question as a financial planner is, when do you want that money to be working at its best? Have you ever thought about that? The best time to have your money growing as fast as possible is when you don't have an income in the future. Because income stops, expenses never stop as long as we live, you know, but income will stop for all of us, for me, for everybody, all of us, which is why you want income in the future to deal with inflation and increasing costs. So I want my money to be getting more and more efficient every single year. You know, what if my airplane could go faster and faster every mile that it flew? And that's the way I'd like to fly my plane. In fact, that's actually how an airplane does fly, you guys. Have you ever thought about that? You don't get in an airplane to go to the grocery store, right? You get in a car to go to the grocery store. An airplane is very inefficient for the first few miles that you're flying. You know, it's got to overcome inertia, gravity, the wind, everything, but not many people would drive, right, from New York to LA. You get in an airplane because it's more efficient over the long haul. In every mile that airplane flies, it's overcoming inertia. There's less gas in the tank, so it weighs less, and it's becoming more and more efficient every single mile that it flies. Now, how cool would it be if your money could do the same thing? Okay, so Wall Street on average, you guys, has lost. Now get this, because this floored me when I figured this out. You know, one of my good friends is a classically trained certified financial planner, and he said that he's he's supposed to tell folks the party line, and the party line is this: invest in the stock market, forget all this, you know, business stuff. Don't be a self-employed person, just get into the stock market. That would be the party line of CFPs. Okay, but when you look at the data on this, on the average, every single year, you guys, every single year for a century, the average loss in the market is 14% every year. Even if it was temporarily down and then up again, that's money that did vaporize. It's not there anymore. It's gone. And every 3 to 5 years, there's a 34% drop. Now, this is called a bear market on the average over the last century. So many advisors will tell you, just buy and hold. Don't look at that 401k, right? You hear it on the news all the time. Don't look at it, you know, just ignore it. It'll bounce back, invest for the long term. Well, you know what? Honestly, I have a problem if someone's stealing a third of my money out of pocket every 3 years, or 14% of my money every single year. I have a problem with that. If I was commuting to work, let's say on the subway or taxi or the bus every day, and someone kept taking my money, I would find another way to get to work, wouldn't you? So the problem with losing 14 or even 34% every couple of years is you have to earn a lot more than those numbers just to break even. Have you ever thought about that? Have you ever done the math on that? You have to do a lot better just to break even. So if you lose 50%, which happened in the Great Recession, you have to grow your nest egg 100% just to break even with what you lost. All right. Now, I did a post on this today, hoping to get a little bit of curiosity going, but there are 3 words, you guys, and this might be one of those things that you want to write down because this is important. There are 3 words that could have the biggest impact on whether you enjoy a comfortable retirement or you have to struggle and forego life's luxuries and even life's necessities. But almost no one is talking about these three words, and there's a good chance you've never even heard of them. These three words could have more impact on your retirement lifestyle than living longer than you expected or being forced to retire sooner than you planned, which actually happens to nearly 50% of Americans. So sequence of returns risk, you guys, it's just a fancy way of saying that retirees who have a big portion of their money in equities and mutual funds, they face a very real risk that the market will fall as they are withdrawing money from their accounts. So when you run the numbers, you discover that the impact of a market decline, the market going down in the first few years of your retirement is even worse than in the later years. It turns out that when you begin to take withdrawals, that market volatility, when the market's going crazy, it has a much greater impact than the rate of return. And I'm going to show you this. But an unfavorable, the negative sequence of returns, it might make you have to cut back significantly on your retirement lifestyle, or it might force you to work longer than you planned. Here's the problem. There is no way to accurately predict when the next market crash will happen, you guys, or where the markets will be when you're ready to retire. Okay. So one way to protect yourself from this very real threat to your retirement is to diversify your assets. Now, what if a portion of your assets, of your savings, were in an asset or a place, an environment that is guaranteed to grow it by a larger dollar amount every single year? Now, that would be a favorable sequence of returns that translates into financial peace of mind, financial serenity for your whole life. Okay, now I want you guys to take a look at this because this is real. Take a look at Jane Johnson and Jim Smith, both of who are aged 65 and are taking a look at retirement. Okay, they both have $500,000 in their portfolio. Now, this is the part I get excited about because I love these numbers, but it helps to look at some real numbers. Okay, so they have $500,000 in their portfolio. And then over the next 13 years, they both have the same rate of return, 3.77%. You can see that. Each of them takes the exact same income out over those 13 years, starting at $20,000 a year, and slowly giving themselves a small pay raise to keep up with inflation, increasing the amount of money in their portfolio each year. Okay. Now, what surprises most people is that Jane Johnson had early negative returns in her portfolio. Okay. And at age 81, she only has $74,000 left in her portfolio. How do you think she feels at that point? How would you feel if you were 81 years old and only had that much left from your $500,000 just 13 years earlier? Okay, our friend Jim Smith, on the other hand, he still has a whopping $344,000 left in his portfolio. How is that even possible? You have the exact same income, the exact same rate of return, but what's different? It's the sequence of the returns that he received. In fact, for our example, we took Jane's sequence of returns and simply flipped them upside down. We reverse the order of the hypothetical rates of return each year over 13 years. And in this example, that's a difference of approximately $270,000, $250,000, you guys. That bad outcome for Jane, it illustrates the impact of negative returns in the early years in conjunction with taking income from that stock portfolio. Now, I want to show you a little bit of man on the street math because I think this might be a little bit easier to understand if I lost you in that last one, but I think this is pretty helpful, pretty easy to understand. So this is man on the street arithmetic, or woman on the street arithmetic, as I like to call it. Probably more man on the street because women, they've got us beat in a lot of ways. Anyway, so let's say you have $100 invested, you guys. One might think that if your investments are up 10% in the first year, but then down 10% in the next year, then you're even. But in reality, starting with $100 going up 10% to $110, And then in the next year, you're down 10%. Well, now you're at $99. You're not even. You haven't broken even. And let's look at the second example. In the first year, you go up 100%. Then in year 2, down 50%. Your investment advisor could tell you, hey, you've got a 25% average rate of return. You should be feeling great. But the truth is, you might be out of money or less money, if you go up 100% from $100, that's $200. If you lose half of $200, you're back down to your original $100. That's a 0% real rate of return. And you guys, in this last example, you're up 60% the first year, down 50% the second year. Your advisor will tell you, hey, you're up with a 5% average, but you guys, 100% up to 160, then down to 80, you actually lost money. Sobering, I feel like, to look at those numbers and some of the verbiage that we're usually fed. Now, I always like to think about with clients when I sit down to chat with them is this very key and important question. And I want you, if you can, everybody, to forget about financial labels for a minute, okay? If you can, just kind of wipe that out of your mind. I don't care if it's an IRA or a hedge fund or a savings account or a shoebox. You have to ask yourself, I want you to ask yourself this question, okay? Let this be a thought experiment for you. What do I want my money to do for me? This is another one I would write down if I were you for later. What do I want my money to do for me? That question will lead you down the best path you could possibly go down in relation to your money. You don't need a money guru to tell you what you need your money to do for you. Only you have the freedom and the right to be able to answer that question for yourself. So now I will tell you where your money lives makes it do different things. That's another one to write down. Where your money lives makes it do different things. That is such an obvious sentence, but I feel like I needed somebody to tell me that when I first got started. So, like a fish out of water, if you put your money in the wrong spot, you're dead. But if you put that fish in a nice, beautiful, temperature-controlled aquarium with food every day, man, it's going to thrive. It's going to reproduce. You're going to have little baby fishies floating around, and you want your money to multiply just like that. But most financial environments, they keep your money out of your control. Wall Street, 401ks and IRAs, banks, credit cards, finance companies, real estate inventory, even a shoebox. Most of these environments, and these are all environments where your money might live, they take money away from you. So what if you could grow your money at a faster and more efficient rate every single year? Not up and down, sideways, but up and to the right. Up and to the right. The way we like to show it as financial planners is that beautiful J curve. Up and to the right, uninterrupted compound growth. What if you could keep your money available for your real estate business, equipment upgrades, other large purchases? What if you had a plan, not just for this year's needs, but next year's and the next year? I mean, think about that for a minute, guys. We've had 3 major market corrections and crashes just since the year 2000. Yes, anybody remember pets.com, Enron? What about the Lehman Brothers? What about everything that's going on? Do we really think this is the last financial crisis we're ever going to go through? Probably not. Probably not. Seems like they're a dime a dozen these days. But what if you could own and control the outcome of your cash before you even got started? If you knew I'm going to have X dollars when I'm 62, or, what would you do? Or what would that do? 72, whatever your age is in the future, what would that do for your sanity to know exactly what you're going to have? What would you not have to worry about anymore? So, I'm kind of teasing the strategy here, you guys. Where's the bank on yourself stuff, right? I'm kind of teasing the strategy here, but I like to start with the concept before we really get into it. So what can do all this, guys? When I was looking into all the options and strategies, the only thing I could come up with in my research of all things in the financial universe was a dividend, high cash value, dividend paying whole life insurance policy. Everything I put on my wish list, and this was a big, this is about 10 years ago. This was a huge project for my wife and I, because we just took a lot of time praying and seeking the answer on this. We made a whole wish list, and it was guaranteed principal, guaranteed growth, tax-free access to our money, a legacy, creditor protected, private. All of those characteristics are embedded in something that's been around for 200 years. High cash value, dividend paying whole life insurance. Now, this is going to sound crazy because I was a Dave Ramsey fanboy for many years. I had the envelopes in my wallet and everything. But this is not the kind of whole life insurance that they talk about on the radio or Susie likes to talk about on her TV shows. These are supercharged with options and additions onto the policy that really it augments it and makes it more efficient, makes more efficient the equity in your cash. So, it's a living benefit, not just a death benefit, a living benefit that you can really use as an asset right from the start. And typically, we cut the commissions on these type of policies by about 50 to 70%. So just take a look at this newer version of whole life. This is not your father's whole life insurance, This is a 160-year-old financial vehicle that grows guaranteed every single year. I'll say that again because it bears repeating, guaranteed every single year. Now, that's a hard statement to say in the financial universe, to say the word guarantee, but it's not 30% rate of return guarantee, right? But it's pretty decent though. It sure beats my CDs and money market accounts and my savings bonds these days. We are talking middle single digits, in that range, 4, 5, 6%. It's also accessible cash. So this is meant to be a parking space for your money in between the deals, the big purchases, the trips, whatever you need capital for. Maybe it's for your nonprofit, whatever you need capital for. So it's not meant to be either or. It's not meant to be an exclusion of your real estate investing or other types of investing. It's really meant to be the garage or the parking space where you keep your money in between deals, opportunities, large purchases in life. So obviously, when I put my money into a savings account, let's say I have $1,000 and I put into my savings account, that's all I have to my name. And if I croak this afternoon, or this evening, God forbid, well, I pass away and I leave my family. What do I leave? $1,000? If I put $1,000 in a life insurance policy today, pass away tonight, God forbid, my family's getting way more than $1,000. So instantly, I've created a legacy there. But maybe, I think most relevant to our talk tonight is becoming your own source of financing. There's really no other space, there's no other environment where we can take back control of the banking function in our lives. So you never know what life might throw at you guys, whether it's a business need like accessing capital for your real estate business, your nonprofit, personal needs like a car, medical emergency, or anything else. The cash value option, loan option, it gives you the chance to use your cash for any reason, whether you're just starting out on the first policy year or really ready to retire and pull money out for the tax advantage to income in retirement. Policy loans, it offers you complete peace of mind that you'll have liquid access to your cash savings in the policy. I think this is kind of funny. I'm laughing, you guys, because I don't think most people associate loans and peace of mind, right? Credit cards, banks, they really make it clear that being in debt to them is not a good idea, But this policy loan is different in that it's technically what's called a non-recourse loan, meaning you don't have to pay back the loan over a specified period of time. Like if you get a car loan, you got to pay that thing back in 4 or 5 years. So with this, you don't have to pay it back in a specified period of time, though, we do recommend that you pay back your loans over a reasonable period of time. And you'll also find that when you access a policy loan, there's no required repayment schedule by the insurance company. They don't mind if you pay it back over 1 year or 50 years. It would just be deducted from your death benefit if you should pass away and the loan was still outstanding. So meanwhile, while your loan is outstanding, they will pay you. Okay, I know you're probably getting a little bit tired of hearing my voice drone on a little bit, but this part, you guys, this is one of the coolest things that drew me to this. So while your loan is outstanding, they will pay you the same guaranteed annual cash value increase and the same exact dividend, even on the capital you borrowed out. So let's say you have 100,000 in there, you borrow out 30,000, you're still earning interest and dividends as if you had never taken it out. So you're still earning interest on the full $100,000. That is a game changer, my friends. If you're listening to nothing else and you caught that piece, that can blow your mind. That right there can really change everything for you. So when you have your cash growing as if you never touched the money, you can be certain that your financial plan and your cash will be there for you as you pay off your loans with business profits. So I just think that is a game changer. That is super, super powerful. Okay, so now I'm always very interested to share both sides of the coin. Okay, if it's not a good fit, don't just run out and get one of these because you heard it even on a great show, a great live call like this from Gillian and Dr. Roni. It's not perfect for every situation. And also don't go into this thinking it's a big, juicy investment, like you might find on Wall Street. I would say, this is really going to bore you to tears with its simple, predictable returns. And it's not meant to be thought of as replacing your other investments. It's just that cash part of your portfolio, which, to me is the best part. It's that emergency fund, but it's also my opportunity fund. Here's another question to write down. How big of an opportunity fund do you want to have? Right now, if you're wondering, am I even eligible for this? Even if you're, 82 years old, or you've got a couple of extra birthdays under your belt, or maybe you have some health issues, you can still own policies, even if you're not the one that's insured. So there's a guy who just went through heart surgery a few years ago, and he loved this bank on yourself idea, but he was uninsurable. So, he's grandpa in the family, and he buys a policy on his wife, his adult children, and all the grandkids too. He's got over a dozen policies in his portfolio, even though he's himself uninsured. All right, we're getting close. We're getting ready to land the plane, you guys. But I want to share this with you because I think this is incredible. So in creating any product, it starts with engineering, whether it's an automobile or a life insurance contract. So engineers make cars, but actuaries and lawyers make life insurance contracts, right? Personally, I'd love to hang out with the sports car engineers, but that's just me. But unlike those sports cars, those constantly need tune-ups, right? And repairs. The whole life insurance policy is engineered to become more and more efficient every year. So, maybe I should hang out with these actuaries and lawyers after all. Imagine driving a car that got better and better gas mileage every year, guaranteed. And some interesting things appear, as you begin to look into the insurance contract. And that's that the contract is something that's called unilateral. Here's a cool little vocabulary word for you guys. It's unilateral. And that means the company promises to do certain things if you meet their standards and make the payments. So if you read it carefully, you'll see that I think this is so important. You are the owner. You are the owner of the contract, not the insurance company. The owner is the most important character in this scene. And so the question is, friends, are you an owner where your money lives, or are you merely a transaction on someone else's balance sheet? If you have a loan at the bank, you are an asset of that bank. If you have a savings deposit, you're a liability to the bank, but you're still not an owner. When you are the bank, when you are the owner, you get to control the whole process. So when you think long range, you really think toward the success of your whole financial life. What is your whole financial life? it's not just you. Hopefully you're not just thinking about yourself, you're thinking legacy, 2, 3, 4, multiple generations down the line, right? Okay, so guys, as we bring this presentation to a close, we started with the question, and I want to end with the question, what's the one thing I can do with my money such that by doing it, everything else becomes either easier or unnecessary? It's like the small hinge that turns the big door, right? We can put our money, you guys, anywhere we want to. We can. And as you've heard in today's presentation, where you put your money, it makes it do different things. It makes it act differently. So the question is, what is the one thing you can do? Where is the one place you can put your money such that where you put it will make the rest of your life just full of energy, attraction, joy, sanity, serenity. So if that's something that speaks to you, that's something that has stirred something within you, then let's get started. Okay. If you want to learn more, we can put a tailwind on your financial life to help you achieve your financial goals without having to take a bunch of unnecessary risk. Now, as I mentioned, we've been able to work with people in all stages of life, young, old, just getting started, well down the path, business owners, aspiring business owners. But I have to say, there are a lot of people, of course, they're not familiar with this and they don't know exactly what it's like to sit down and work with me. So I just want to spend a minute and explain what that looks like and how it would feel, what it would do for you to partner up with me. So first of all, we just have a 30,000-foot financial flyover of your current situation. We call it a financial analysis phone call. And after that, after we've had a brief introduction to get to know each other, to see if we'd be a good fit, we'd schedule what's called a financial analysis. Now, the financial analysis, it's a space where we would look over your big picture goals, your concerns, and where your money's at today, and is it doing what you want it to? In fact, we actually look at 8 ways to free up money to fund a Bank on Yourself policy if it's a good fit for you. And oftentimes we can do that without you having to come up with more money out of pocket, which is pretty cool. So since each of these policies are specifically designed, they're custom tailored, it's going to take some time for me to really understand your objectives and your goals. So this is a free, no obligation analysis. We have a phone call, like this, or over Zoom if you prefer. And we'll go over your 401k, your debt, your credit card, your income, whatever your situation might be. And, just imagine what it's going to feel like. Just imagine just having that one conversation. Many people who I talk to, they say that they're finally on the same page with their spouse and they're finally feeling more empowered just because we had that first conversation. Once we've had that discussion, if it looks like I can be of help to you, then we have a second meeting where I show you the numbers. I give you my best recommendation. And if it all looks good and if it seems like it makes sense to you, then we implement the plan. Okay. That easy. So, why should you work with me, you guys? Well, you don't want to end up with some other advisor who just Googled this strategy, right? We talked about how this is using a custom form of whole life insurance, but there are so many people out there. There are 400,000 life insurance agents in the United States, and not many of them, in fact, almost none of them know anything about what I just spent the last 40 minutes talking about. So you want to work with the right company. You want to work with the right agent, and you want to make sure that the policy is designed properly and gives you a non-direct loan feature, just for one example out of 25 or 30 features that we need to use to build these policies correctly to ensure that you're not going to be waking up 5 years from now, and what did I do, right? You want to make sure that you have the policy that you hope to get and that you're hearing about on this presentation. So again, the next step, tangibly and logically, next step is just to hop on my calendar. Let's just have a 15-minute phone strategy before we go down that pathway of a financial analysis. Just a 10, 15-minute chat to see if this would be a right fit for you and to answer any questions that we don't get answered here today.
It's a different way of thinking, right, Ben? For most of
Absolutely.
us who have traditionally gone to a bank, gone to an insurance agent, basically handed over our money to somebody else. So this is an opportunity to keep it more closely connected, and that we are actually the owners of our future and owners of our money. So for many, I think on this call, and even myself, when you first told me about it, I was like, I don't fully understand this. I typically would just give my services and go to somebody else and pay them to look after. I don't want to think about it. But so based on the feedback and the slides that you showed, there is a huge win-win to look after yourself, which is not
Mhm.
normal, Ben, right? So this is
Yeah.
an alternative way of healing your financial circumstance.
Right.
So if anybody is in a position where they want to look at some alternative way of containing their money and their equity for their future, they should definitely reach out to you. That's just my synopsis right there. They'll be reaching out to you, and that will be bit.ly at /BB Financial Services. Dr. Roni, do you have any feedback from tonight's discussion? Because it is different than we would normally talk
Yeah.
about, right?
Well, it's different, but it's very much needed. As I'm listening to you, I know people have this question at the highest level, like, do I qualify for something like this? Because I do know that we live in a time today where we're losing our faith on banks,
Yeah.
and that's because, first of all, we don't get the interest rate that we used to get. I mean, I'm going back 30 years, guys. Way back when interest rate was great. You go put your money in a savings account and you can get some interest in a couple of years.
Mm.
Not anymore. The other thing is that we are afraid to put our money in the bank because they're always talking about a crash, economical crash. So the thing that comes to my brain is that I really like is that you could take money out and your interest rate still grow. That's phenomenal. Like you could
Amazing.
put $100,000 in, take out 50 grand, and you still keep getting the same interest. That's huge. I think there was a lot of things that you said tonight make good sense for somebody to put their money in. It's just that who don't qualify for something like this?
Right. That's an excellent question. I love the points that you brought up. Who doesn't qualify? For people who, even if like the gentleman that I mentioned, who's 82 years old and he had a heart condition, he wasn't able to get a policy on himself, but he was able to get a policy on his wife, his kids, and his grandkids. So what's the benefit of that, right? If he can't get a policy on himself, why would he do that on his wife, kids, and grandkids? It's because he understood the power of the living benefits, right? So he loved the ability to create his own bank in a sense, right? This is a place to put your money. So he could use that as a fund for anything that he wanted to do for himself or his family, right? So that's one point. But then of course, what happens if his wife passes away, and she's got a policy on her? The family gets the death benefit as well. So I have a young friend, actually, he's made some mistakes in his past. Okay, he's actually has 3 DUIs, and he wasn't able. This happened like just this last week. He wasn't able to get a policy on himself, but he did it on his spouse. Okay, so now there's 2 policies on her. They are entrepreneurs, right? They want to do a retreat in Costa Rica. So they're using this as an opportunity fund. Now, for him, 6 years later down the road, he's going to be able to get a policy because 10 years have passed. So even if you feel like you might be too old, don't disqualify yourself. Even if you may have had some issues, don't disqualify yourself, because there are a lot of ways that you can still implement this plan, this way of doing finances in your life, in your family.
And one quick note, if it's life insurance, I've never considered getting life insurance. But you know what? It is a good thing to get. My mother got 2 policies for her and my stepdad, and he passed away unexpectedly. And he had 2 different policies. And that basically paid for his funeral.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And because funerals nowadays are so expensive, you're looking at over 20,000 for everything, you know, from the funeral to the burial.
Mm-hmm.
It's getting really expensive. So, I mean, if you're looking to at least pay for your funeral, it would be a great investment.
That's so true. And that's great. That's great feedback. Um, it's interesting because permanent life insurance, whole life insurance, is the only insurance that exists that's guaranteed to pay out.
Mhm.
The only insurance that exists that's guaranteed to pay out. If you're talking term and life term, 99% of term policies never pay. But what's unique, and I think you're getting a glimpse of this, is that this is death benefit. It's legacy, right? So if a legacy is important to you, you've got that death benefit, but then you also have the living benefits, right? So it comes back to that question, what do I want my money to do for me? Do I want to leave a legacy? Okay, that's one checkbox, but what else can it do for me? How else can I leverage that $1 to do multiple things?
Maybe I need to be educated on this, but what if somebody's in a position where they're hurt, they don't have any money and they need to go find a loan to go see a doctor, like they don't have Medicare, they don't have some sort of way of supporting themselves when they have to go get a healing service. Is this something that can be considered?
I would say, if you're a person that can't rub two pennies together, if you're really struggling to save and have any kind of savings, any kind of savings, then this may not be for you. But it may happen that you get injured someday, right? So when's the best time to plant a tree? Well, it was like 20 years, 30 years ago, right? When's the next best time to plant a tree? It's right now. So if you start planning now, when that emergency comes, then you're going to be off. You're going to be a lot better off. If you're in a position where you can't rub two pennies together right now, this might not be for you. But if you decide, I'm going to start saving, I'm going to start implementing this so that my future self, so that tree can begin to grow, then you're doing yourself a favor, then you're starting to get ahead a little bit.
If you are, again, not following the Feel Good Share Good Facebook page, please do so, because that's where all of our events are now being shown. And I do want to say thank you again, Ben, and I'll let you close it out for this evening on how we can reach out to you or how we can follow you in the future. Okay.
This is an amazing group. You guys cherish it. Take everything in that you can, because this is such a wonderful, amazing, positive place. I don't know where else you can get such an amazing dose of love and positivity as right here. So if you guys do want to reach out, I would love to connect with you, hear any questions that you have. And, wellness is all these 7 components, just like Ellen, check out Ellen's book. But the financial piece is really key. We can't forget about that. And I appreciate you giving me the space to share about this. Love you guys.
Dr. Roni DeLuz. You can find her at drronideluz.com. And then the lovely and talented Gabriela Daughtrey, you can find her on uplinepro.com. Always a great to have everybody here. Thank you again, Ben. I'm going to find you at bencberry@gmail.com, bit.ly/BB Financial Services. We're going to find you there too. So thank you, everybody, for following us every week. I'm going to say over and out and be good.